Alright, we're going to start with some Vivus 100 denier thread GSP SA274 curved saltwater number 2 hook from Arex. We're going to place our hook firmly into our vise, and we're going to proceed with putting some thread wraps on there. This is going to build the little base. We're going to come well into the bend here and snip off our access. We're going to be using 80-pound mono eyes that I made myself and painted with a black magic marker. Secure that eye down, get it nice and tight. Once you have your wraps in, then I like to do a little secure wrap, and you're going to see it one more time here. I'll put my wraps down, and then once they're in, then I'm going to come over and secure them in just like that. That will just ensure everything stays in place. Once that's all done, we're going to add a black barred Magnum rabbit strip, Crawfish orange color. And I like to do about 1/4 of an inch here. That's going to create the surface on the crayfish. Once we have that in there, we're going to cut off our excess just to clean it up a little bit. And for our antennae, we're going to be using black flexi legs. You can get them from Hairline or Spirit River. Make sure you use the whole length. If you try to cut it in half, what ends up doing is you get it really curly and you don't get that antennae to look pretty. So secure one on each side of the crayfish head here. Get them nice and tight in there. And we're going to use some glue here to secure everything together as this is a big bulky section. Next, we're going to be tying in a 1.5-inch Foxy brush from EP. This is in pale olive. When you secured this brush down to your hook, make sure you get the whole entire wire down the shank and nice and tight secured. Once that's in, go ahead and start by wrapping it towards the hook eye and pulling your fibers forward towards the eyes of the crayfish. This is going to create our little bump for our claws here. You could cut this or you could keep it in place. I intend to cut it just to get everything secured a little better, and then come in there with your pick and just pick everything out. If you have a brush, you could brush it out. For our claws, we're going to be using black barred strips, an olive variant. I prefer using Magnum. However, I was all out, so I just used regular rabbit strips. Just get one secured on each side, and once that's secured back in there, go ahead and bring your Foxy brush back in. Get it nice and secured. Watch your thread so you don't cut your thread. Get it nice and secured. Move your thread wraps, and we're going to do another 3 to 4 wraps of the brush. Once the brush is there, we're going to add some silly legs, but first we're going to pick out some of this brush again, and we want to make it nice and flowy. For the legs, we're using silly legs, perfectly barred olive from Wapsi. I like to use four on each side, so just divide them in half, flip them over, and advance your thread all the way to the hook eye and start doing wraps till you cover the hook shank all the way to the hook eye. Once you have it all secured, cut it off. If you're using scissors, make sure you use all pair of scissors, and then do a 3 to 4 whip finish. Do it 2-3 times just to get it nice and secure. Cut off your access and trim your legs, so that way one's a little longer than the other, and work your way up. Then come back and just pick out your brush one more time just to make sure it's nice and fluffy. Once that's all fluffy, add your flow from Loon or any like bone dry or whatever you like. Next thing we're going to be adding is the fish skull jig shank 22 millimeter. These are from Flyman. These things are amazing jig shanks, perfect for smallies or for your brown trout. Make sure you put that in the right orientation and then just secure it in your vise. Watch the hook point. I like to put a little protector there onto the hook point so I don't cut myself as I'm pulling the brush and just working with all the material. Bring your thread onto the hook, add some glue, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work it up, and then I'm going to slide and make a little dam. That allows me to bring my thread all the way to the top and gets it and keeps it from fouling. Once I have my thread all built up right there, I'll just add a little flow, hit it with the UV light. Once the UV light's on there and cured, I'm going to get my eyes ready here. These are not eyes. This is going to be your weight. So I'm using medium dumbbell eyes. I'm going to crush them nice and flat on both sides in the same direction. This is what it looks like. Bring it down into that gap there. Secure your dumbbells, flattened dumbbells, should I say. If you want to use a different color, you're more than welcome to create a hot spot. Then bring your epoxy brush and tie that in. Once your epoxy brush is tied in, we're going to use some mallard barred flank here. And this is going to create like a shell on the fly. Now, this is what Blaine Chocolate and Adam Horton Dairy use to create that nice little shell. You could also use hen hackle if you want, just to kind of create that shell. And I used a little UV light to make it a little hard and crusty, and then just cure it. I'm going to move my brush all the way forward in between the eyes and everything, so that way I finish the tail of the crayfish here. Once that's finished, I'm going to tighten it down, pick out the brush, and I'm going to add another mallard frank here to create that shell of the crayfish. The top of the crayfish is critical, especially when you put the UV on. It's going to make it look dark and make it look realistic. Do your whip finish 3 to 4 turn 2 times. Add that UV on there one more time, and then just hit it. That UV is going to make it darker. It's going to make it look realistic, and this is what your crayfish is going to look like when you're all done. Fish it for smallies or trout, and when you hook them, let me know.